Welcome back to First Verse with Steve and Marissa.
Woo.
We're going to be in Numbers chapter 20, starting in verse 14.
Edom denies Israel passage. Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom, saying, "This is what your brother Israel says. You know about all the hardships that have come upon us." It's interesting that it says brother Israel, because remember, Jacob's given name by God was Israel. So, Our forefathers went down into Egypt, and we lived there many years. The Egyptians mistreated us and our fathers, but when we cried out to the Lord, he heard our cry and sent an angel and brought us out of Egypt.
Interesting why he goes with this one.
Now we are here at Kadesh, a town on the edge of your territory. Please let us pass through your country. We will not go through any field or vineyard or drink water from any well. We will travel along the king's highway and not turn to the right or to the left until we have passed through your territory. I don't know that they would be disciplined enough to do what they're saying. But Edom answered, "You may not pass through here. If you try, we will march out and attack you with the sword." The Israelites replied, "We will go along the main road, and if we or our livestock drink any of your water, we will pay for it. We only want to pass through on foot, nothing else." Again they answered, "You may not pass through." Then Edom came out against them with a large and powerful army. Since Edom refused to let them go through their territory, Israel turned away from them. Shoot. So their army was big enough that Israel was like, yeah, we're not going to fight this fight.
Yeah. So you remember at the beginning, we were talking about, so the beginning of Numbers chapter 1, I guess 1 through 3, they were numbering the men to seeing how many soldiers they had. I think they had somewhere around 600,000. So the Edomites dwarfed them, or were larger than them.
The death of Aaron. Verse 22. The whole Israelite community set out from Kadesh and came to Mount Hor. At Mount Hor, near the border of Edom, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Aaron will be gathered to his people. He will not enter the land I give the Israelites because both of you rebelled against my command at the waters of Meribah." I'll let you read the rest of it so I can get some more bacon.
You're in 25, right? Yes. Take Aaron and Eleazar, his son, and bring them up to Mount Hor, and strip Aaron of his garments and put them on Eleazar, his son. For Aaron shall be gathered to his people and die there. It's kind of stark, but at least he had a heads up.
And the mountain we're talking about is spelled H-O-R.
H-O-R, Mount Hor. I don't know if I can...
Right.
Anyway, so Moses did as the Lord commanded, and they went up to Mount Hor in the sight of all the congregation. So everyone's eyes was upon him, and they started to go up to the mountain. Moses stripped Aaron of his garments and put them on Eleazar his son, and Aaron died there on top of the mountain. Then Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain. Now when all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, all of the house of Israel mourned for Aaron 30 days. Hallelujah. Cool. You got to get going?
Yeah. Well, it's cool that Eleazar got to go up on the mountain too.
Yeah, well...
There wasn't that many people that Moses took with him up the mountain.
There's a ceremony that took place up there.
Yeah.
That's why. Some pause. And we're back. Okay, so interesting notes that... let's see, let's start with... Okay, when the verse 14. Now Moses sent messengers from Kadesh, where they had been staying for about 3 to 4 months, to the king of Edom, who's not named here. So his appeal is interesting. He's saying, thus says your brother Israel. I found that interesting. Instead of saying, "Hey, we're the Israelites, we're requesting permission to come through your land," he said, "Thus says your brother Israel." It's interesting because one, Jacob was given his name Israel after Jacob and Esau split. Now, for those of you who don't know Jacob and Esau's story, the Cliff Notes version is that they were twins. Uh, Esau was the first twin, so he was the older twin, and he and Jacob were like oil and water. They did not mix very well in their youth. Jacob ended up stealing the blessing that was due Esau, and Esau wanted him dead. So, but Esau wanted him dead primarily because he thought that God's blessing was no longer on him. But then, later on in life, when Esau found that God's blessing was still upon him, he didn't really care. Now, Esau was always known as a man of the field. He just didn't really care about the things of God. So when he acquired wives and children, and children were born unto him, and his family and everything else grew, he eventually made up with Jacob, and actually invited him to come along with him. But Jacob refused, mainly because he didn't see the Lord in Esau. He saw a great promise in him. He saw a great promise of covenant wealth in him, but ultimately Jacob did not want to go alongside Esau again. And much of the Edomites, so Esau, his name became, the word Edom is red. That's just what that means. And so therefore they Esauites isn't a word, but Edomite is basically the line of Esau. So they multiplied over time, over the 215 years that Israel was in Egypt, which is kind of interesting. America just had her, I guess it's 250th birthday. So the amount of time that the Israelites were in Egypt was about the same time as America has been a country or a nation. So if that puts things into perspective, yeehaw. Okay, so there's been a weird relationship between the Edomites and the Israelites. Edomites don't really care for the Israelites, and that hatred has been passed down over multiple generations. Much like how the Arab nations have come to absolutely hate the Israelites of today. A lot of that is generational hatred just passed down. So when Moses appealed to the king of Edom, saying, "Hey, we send our brotherly love," basically saying, "We come in peace. We just want to pass through, and we're asking. We're not going to demand." And the king of Edom said, "Y'all can go pound sand." But keep in mind here that the Lord didn't say, "All right, you can wipe them out." No, the Lord didn't sanction that. Instead, the Israelites diverted and went someplace else. So I thought that was interesting. And later on, they do go to war with the Edomites. But they're not all wiped out, as Herod is an Edomite and is sitting on the throne when Jesus is born, or when the Messiah is born. So, just a little bit of an interesting side note there. Let's see. What other notes come out? Edomites for the descendants, yes. Um, so in verse 22, at the death, or at the beginning of the death of Aaron, it says, "Now the children of Israel, the whole congregation, journeyed from Kadesh and came to Mount Or." So Israel now started the last section of their journey to Canaan, going around Moab and Edom to come to the land from the east of Jordan. If y'all can picture that on the map, that'll make a lot more sense. Verse 27. So Moses did. Okay, so quick thing about the death of Aaron. This was really sad for Moses. So if you recall earlier on, Moses was begging Jethro, his father-in-law, and Reuel, his brother-in-law, to stay with him because he was the like they were the only family or people he could really lean on, and he was really not desperate, but he was just. He's like, these people are stiff-necked. These people are stubborn, and they don't even like the Lord. They don't even like being here. And if I'm not careful, they're going to stone me. And he begged Reuel to stay with him back in, I think, Numbers, I want to say 10 or Numbers 7. Anyway, several chapters ago, he was begging his extended family to stay with him because they were really the only people he could trust. He stayed with them for like 40 years, and he knew them very well by then. Um, so during these times where he journeyed from the land of Midian back to Egypt, and Aaron was his go-to guy. Anyway, Aaron was not just family. Some of y'all know this too, that sometimes you can't depend on family. Sometimes family's just people you grew up with and nothing more, which is very sad, actually. Anyway, Moses and Aaron were super close. Very, very, very close. I mean, the budding of Aaron's staff was just a few chapters ago. I mean, it was basically saying God chose Aaron, and just so the people know, so the people aren't rebellious anymore, God chose Aaron to be by Moses' side. And the people can stuff it and quit rebelling for the meantime. Anyway, Moses and Aaron were pretty tight at this point. And God told him in verse 23 here, and the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron in Mount Or, by the border of the land of Edom, saying, Aaron shall be gathered to his people, for he shall not enter the land which I had given the children of Israel. So this was God reminding Moses that both him and Moses screwed up. Instead of speaking to the rock, they struck it and took that upon themselves. So this is the Lord just reminding him, hey, because of this transgression, both of you won't be entering into the promised land. And Aaron, your older brother, is going to be dead first. Verse 25, take Aaron and Eleazar his son and bring them up to Mount Or. And therefore, basically transfer Aaron's garments to Eleazar, showing that there is a transition. So there's a ceremony that will take place up there. One, it will be the burial of Aaron, because it says 3 men went up and only 2 men came back down, meaning they probably buried him up there. But God let Israel see the change in high priest, so there wouldn't be a rebellion, at least not off the top of their heads. At least not anytime soon. So let's see. Swear it's anything to stand out. Yeah. So this knowing Aaron's death hurt Moses greatly. Um, here's an interesting note. Let's see. Both Moses and Aaron were representatives of the law, and the law could never inherit the promised land, so both must die without going into the promised land. Yeah, it stinks. Yeah, that really stinks. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's all for the notes right now. We love you. There's nothing you can do about it, and see you next time in chapter 21.